Would you say that overcoming the rough patches strengthened the marital bond between you and your husband?
I think overcoming rough patches in anything will give you strength in whatever it is, but certainly in my marriage, yes, if you stay and you want to learn from, whatever you're going through in anything in life, I think that that's a given. You can learn something from it if you focus on that. But yes, it gave us strength. Yes. I mean, if you're looking for smooth sailing all the time, you're probably not. And honestly, I feel like when people get married and you're in your honeymoon, it's wonderful. It is wonderful. But you can still be on your honeymoon and have a disagreement. Somebody could want to do this today, and this one could want to do that today, and you're in your honeymoon. So there's a little conflict there. Or somebody will give in and say, okay, and then maybe tomorrow it's like, well, we did this yesterday, let's do this, honey, today. I mean, there could be conflict anywhere. So it's not like, I mean, and it could still be wonderful. We had wonderful days, beautiful days, but then there were days where there was a challenge because if you're two strong-willed people, you want to get your point across for whatever, or you could be one that's more, strong-willed and the other one's a little more passive. And there still could be conflict. And there could be silent conflict. Silent conflict, if you have someone that's a little more forthcoming in the way that they feel, and the other one is a little more passive and not generally speaking up, but internalizing everything, there's still conflict. If there isn't conflict that's open to the both of them, there's conflict with the person that is more passive because they're conflicted in wanting to be able to express their feelings and not really being able to do that in a way that is going to be conducive to the relationship being positive, or the other person not allowing them to have that space to be able to do that. So there's still conflict, you just don't see it. So when people say that it's wonderful, it can still be wonderful, but you can still have things that are simmering somewhere in there, and it goes back to you, whether you are going to work on you and be able to voice your opinion respectfully, or whether you're going to be the person that internalizes everything and never says anything and then blows up 10 years later. I mean, so there's a lot, but I still think that you can have wonderful days and people can say, oh, my marriage is wonderful, everything looks great and everything is, and it probably is, but there still can be things that need to be worked on in that wonderful marriage because you're dealing with two different people, two different personalities, two different thought processes, two different, I could go on and on and on. So it could very well be wonderful and beautiful and great in what people say a perfect marriage. But in that, what people call a perfect marriage, there are things that still have to be worked on. And if you don't do the work, eventually it will not be what it was in the beginning. And if it's bad and not that wonderful marriage, and you do the work, you can help it become what it is that you want most of the time, if you're willing to work on it. Both parties have to do the work.
How were some of the ways that distractions showed up in your life and how did you combat them?
There were a lot of distractions. I mean, people can be distracting. That, if you're talking about marriage, people that want to dip into your relationship and tell you, what you should do, how you should do it, girlfriends that want to tell you, like somebody told me, I don't know how you, if it were my husband, I wouldn't be taking care of him like that, I would leave. I mean, so that can be a distraction if you're not if you would allow that to, so if I were having a bad day that day, frustrated, and I allowed that seed to be planted in my mind, that can be a serious distraction because you could begin to ponder, well, why am I doing this? What's the point? Is it really going to benefit me? Am I going to be doing this forever? Is this my life calling? Yeah, you could go there. You can go there in anything. So whatever your situation is, whether you're on a job, whether you're a parent, married, teacher, doctor, doesn't matter. When you get that negative seed or someone speaks into your life, you have a choice to receive it or not. So Distractions for me were probably more on the side of combating frustration. Um, so getting to the point to where, if you're working and you're committed to doing a work, and with my personality wanting it to be, perfect or close to, and if things weren't working the way that I wanted them to work, sometimes, frustration would come, and I would have to step back and really assess, so is it really worth it to think in this way, or is it really worth it to have this action toward that, whatever it is? So I think distractions will come, but you really have to look at your situation, what your expectations are, and what can really take place over those expectations if they are too high. So I think distractions can come in a lot of ways. We just have to pay attention to what's being said to us, what we are saying to ourselves, pay attention to what's being done around us, what we are doing ourselves. Just pay attention to our situation and how we are responding to that situation. And I think if we could back away and take, and look at all of that, it would help us to make decisions that would be more beneficial in whatever situation we're in. But I think we're quick to move. So when we get distracted, sometimes we follow those distractions, and sometimes we don't necessarily follow them, but we allow them to feed us. If it's a negative thought, or someone spoke something, or we saw something, or we read something, or we could be watching something on television. For instance, if your marriage isn't going really well, and you're watching television, and you're watching this movie where everything in that marriage is great, it all looks good, and it's just what we imagine, and man, I wish my life were like that. That's a distraction. If you allow it to take you to the place where it's not going to be beneficial to your marriage. So if you look at that and say, boy, I wish my marriage were like that, and then you come away from that and say, how can I get my marriage to be like that? What can I do to put forth the effort? And if you're the person that feels like, well, I'm already putting forth the effort and he's not, or I'm already doing everything and she's not. So then you have to say to yourself, okay, I don't know how to change that, because you can't change that person. So I think that's where you have to, as a Christian, you have to go to the Lord. God, what can I do? I don't know what to do. What can I do? And just be still. But if you're the person that watches something like that and you come away from that, it's like, I want my marriage to be like that, and it's not, I'm out of here. You know, it, and yes. And so, whatever that distraction was, it's like, it's got you. It took root. And then every day something will come to make you focus on how bad it is and how much you need to get out of it. Somebody will come along and speak to you, because that's just what the adversary does. He'll send people to speak to you. Tomorrow you might get someone that might say, I got so fed up 10 years ago with my husband, and I just divorced him, and my life is great. I love what I'm doing right now. You have to be careful. You have to watch for those things. And they come, trust me, they come.
Can you elaborate on the continuous effort required to remain committed in marriage?
If your marriage is lovely and wonderful 98% of the time, or 100% of the time, your children will bring something to the table that will cause you to have to come together on some other topic or issue that you, as the parent or two parents, might not agree on, but you have to figure out how to come and bring it to the table and make it work for everybody involved. It doesn't always necessarily mean that it's just marital issues that we think of, like husband and wife issues. It's life issues. It could be buying a car. You could have the perfect relationship and decide, we're going to go buy a new car. And then wife likes that car, husband likes that truck, or likes that Jeep, or wife likes that car, or that whatever. So, and then it's like, okay, so now we have to come to agreement on what, we can only get one car. Right now, our budget is at one car, not two. So which car will we get? And then you, for the days, you might ponder back and forth. I really like that. Well, yeah, but I like this. Or I really like that. And our budget says this. So when I say it's a continual, it means it's a continual because we're continually living. It doesn't necessarily mean that the husband and the wife is having stones and issues and battles. It just means that something is always going to come up that will require husband and wife to have to sit down, have a discussion, make some decisions that might cause, I don't want to say conflict, but might cause one to have to give or take in that relationship on something.
What are your thoughts on the precaution one should take before making the choice to dissolve a marriage?
I think that whatever choice people decide to make, here's the key. There are repercussions for every choice that you make. So, or there's an outcome, let's put it that way. There's an outcome for every choice that you make. You can make a choice and there could be a very good outcome, and you can make a choice and there could be a very bad outcome. So my caution would be to be very careful and be slow in whatever choices that you're making, especially if you're not sure if the choice that you should make is the correct one. I would weigh on the side of waiting as opposed to running, because sometimes God can catch us in the waiting. It's hard for him to catch you in the running. Okay. So if you just take out running, it's like your child. You take out running. If your child takes out running from you, it's hard for you to catch your child if that child is running. But if your child starts out on a slow walk away from you towards danger or whatever, you can catch that child. I'm giving you that analogy. I know that God can catch us in anything, but if our mind is moving and our body is moving, sometimes we'll get ourselves into a situation that it would be more for him to get you out of than if you just started out slow. And when you talk about separating yourself in covenant relationships, for whatever reason that you're separating yourself in that relationship, you're still going to have to look at your contributions to that relationship, whether they were positive or negative, and you'll have to assess internally, assess whatever it is that you need to work on. Because a lot of times, we're very vulnerable and then we just jump into something else and we take that same baggage right into the new relationship. It doesn't matter. It could be a friendship. You could have a friendship and not know how to be a good friend. And then, your friendship, your best friend, you guys break up, you're no longer best friends. And then you run into the next friendship and you take that same attitude into that friendship 9 times out of 10 probably isn't going to be a good one either, because you haven't learned how to be a good friend. So I think when it comes to relationships, we have to be very careful in whatever that relationship is, even in parenting. I've learned so much as a parent. It's the same thing. We deal with our children. Each one of our children are different. You have to learn how to deal with each child differently and based on, their personalities. And so I just think relationships require us to also not just look at it outwardly, but look at it from the perspective of what is my contribution to that relationship and how can I contribute in a very positive way, while I'm also keeping boundaries that need to be kept, as far as personal boundaries, in whatever relationship you're in. If it's parenting, you have to keep the boundary and be a parent. Okay. If it's a marital, you have to keep the boundary of being a wife or a husband, but also keeping a healthy space and place where you are taken care of, cherished in the human that you are, and being able to be honored and respected, and also give that back to the person you're in a relationship with, even in friendship. And I think a lot of times we are expecting sometimes more than we're giving. And then for those that are givers, people that are prone to give more, are always constantly giving with no boundary of when not to give, because that person is sucking everything out of you, or taking everything that you have because you're a giver. So I think we have, but all of that comes with knowing yourself. And if you don't know yourself or know how to reel yourself in, then you're constantly going to be the person giving all the time in a relationship, and that person is going to be taking. And after a while, you get so tired of it, then, there's a break. Or if you're the person that's always taking, then the person that is giving, giving with no boundaries is going to get tired. You're going to get tired. They're going to get tired, and there's going to be a break because you're at some point in your life, whatever needs to be worked on, it will come to surface. It just will, because you can't continue going forward in life until you actually work on that thing, whatever that thing is for you. It has to be worked on, or everything that you do or every person that you're connected to, it will affect that. It will have a not a positive effect either, because it's something that you need to work on.
Correct.
And so we have to figure out what that is. And if you don't know, the Lord can show you, or you can find someone in the line of work like what I do to help you figure that out.
Right.
Because sometimes we don't know.
Right.
And sometimes we do know and we don't deal with it.